Hello class. In this video we're going to talk about compound inequalities, and compound inequalities are just a combination of two inequalities, just like the word sounds like. Compound means more than one, and inequalities is what we've been dealing with the past couple objectives. So in compound inequalities you have two different types of inequalities. One situation is an AND situation, and one situation is an OR situation. In the first one, in AND, there are actually two different ways you can write the compound inequality that I want you to be aware of. The first would be just with the word AND. So if you see two inequalities and you have the word AND in between them, it's implying that both inequalities must be met for an answer to actually be an answer. So, for instance, if I told you that my weight was greater than 150 pounds and my weight was less than 200 pounds, you would know that if I said 175 pounds, that could be a possible answer for my weight because it's both greater than 150 pounds and less than 200 pounds. But if I told you my weight was 120 pounds, then you would know that that wouldn't be a possible answer because it's not greater than 150 pounds. So in an AND situation, both inequalities must be met. Now, you can write it in more than one way, like I said. So I'm just going to show you quickly how we can take this inequality and kind of jam it together. So in a compound inequality, in an AND situation, you first of all want the x's together. You want them back to back. So I'm going to take this first inequality and I'm going to make it I'm going to just flip it around, just like we would a regular equation. But when I flip it around and make the -2 and the x change places, I also have to change the inequality sign because -2 is not greater than x. I want my x to be greater than -2. Okay, so now that we have that flipped around and I draw my other inequality right next to it, we will see that we can actually take those x's and we can jam them right together. So I can rewrite my inequality, -2 is less than x. And instead of writing it again, since they're right next to each other, I can just say is less than 3. And that implies that I have both inequalities all rolled into one. So the x is greater than -2 still, and the x is less than 3. You read it in both directions. So how do we graph these inequalities? To graph these inequalities, you actually need to split it into two. So if your inequality looks like this, you have to take it and break it back into two pieces. So you have to break it into x is greater than -2 and x is less than 3. Then you can graph that situation. And you graph them independently. So x is greater than -2. I go to -2. I put an open circle. And since it's greater than, I shade to the right. Then we go to the other inequality. X is less than 3. Go to 3. Open circle again. And we're going to go everything to the left. Now, like I said, and inequalities are special because both criteria need to be met. Like we said with my weight is greater than 150 and less than 200. So if you're looking at the answers down towards the left over here, these are not actually answers because -3 is not greater than -2. So you're going to take your eraser when you're on a test or on a worksheet and you just erase this tail because it's not part of the answers. And the same thing goes for the numbers above 3. So 4 is not going to be less than 3. So 4 is not going to be an answer. So I just erase the answers up above. All right, so if you want to, you can go back through and you can darken in your section in the middle. You can just say, these are my answers, everything in the middle. So -1 is an answer, 0 is an answer, 1 is an answer, 2 is an answer, and so on, all the decimals in between. The OR inequality is a little bit different because this is a situation where one or the other will work. So if we graph our inequality, we just graph both independently and then leave the tails. We're not worried about erasing any tails. So to graph it, we just go x is greater than 4. We go to 4, open circle, arrow, greater than. For the other inequality, x is less than -1, we go to -1, open circle, arrow to the left. And we're not worried about an overlapping section. They're both answers. So -2 is an answer, -3 is an answer, 5 is an answer, 6 is an answer. But none of the answers in between 0, 1, 2, and 3, those are not solutions to the situation because they don't fall on either one of the inequalities.